Join me as I show you how to do this Victorian Pathway Bracelet featuring some simple stringing, a little bit of right angle weave that you don't even really know that you're doing, and then also adding some beads to the middle of the design, which can really vary greatly. So make sure to watch the whole way actually to the end of the video so you can see and talk through some of those different supplies for the middle. If you do want to see the exact supplies that I used, go ahead and look below the video in the description. We'll put a link there to get back to our website. Gather up your materials and let's get started. So this bracelet goes through multiple levels where we're adding on different size crystals and different color sea beads, and then coming back down through the middle and adding a bigger 6mm crystal. But we're going to begin very, very simple. I have 3 colors of 11O sea beads and 2 4mm beads, a bicone and a pearl. Our first section we're going to do is right along the side here, and it's very, very simple. I have a stop bead on the end of size 8 dragon thread in white, and my beginning is going to start with a pearl, and we're going to wrap around the pearls. We're going to wrap around the pearls a total of 5 beads. It's going to be 2 of my blue color, 1 of my silver, and 2 of my blue. Take your needle and thread and let it drop down to the base to that stop bead, which just has about 3 inches at the bottom to tie onto. We're going to go back through the pearl, which is going to bring those beads to the side. From here, we're going to connect to our 4mm crystals. To do so, grab a purple bead and 1 of your 4mm crystals. Then we're going to do the same thing, rounding around the piece here, adding in 4 sea beads, same purple color. Let that drop down next to the pearl. So back through the bicone after those 4 sea beads, not through the sea bead, just the bicone. It'll wrap those 4 sea beads to the outside of the bicone. Add another purple bead, and then start over. Adding a pearl, 2 blue-green, 1 silver, 2 blue-green. Letting that drop down next to your bicone and rounding out through our pearl. Once again on here then, you go in and you're creating your bicone. You're adding 1 of your purple, 1 bicone, 4 more purples, taking your thread and needle, back through the bicone, adding 1 more purple, which is going to become the wings of our butterfly, and then again, back to our pearl. This is going to go the whole way down the right and the left side of the bracelet. Our rounded sections with the silver in the middle are going to go to the interior, and our wings with our purple are going to go to the exterior of the project. Go ahead and create the whole length of your bracelet, most likely about 6.5 to 7 inches, before you add in your clasp. We're going to do this whole side, and then we're going to get ready to join to the middle and do the other side as well. Once you get the length that you need in that simple first stitch, you'll see that the seed beads kind of go every which way. Do not worry about that. We will be forcing them to sit the way that we want to. There are several different ways to do the next connection points. If you want to, you can do a whole separate row mimicking this and then bring them together. I'm going to show you how to go in and create the second row to link onto. If you are really great at beading and you've already been doing this for a while, you can save a step by, when doing the pearls, coming out the silver, doing a right angle unit, and then going back down into the pearls. Most of the videos I do, there's multiple ways to do something. I go with the easiest route to teach since I know there's a lot of beginners on here, and then we advance from there. From here, what we're going to do is go and add that right angle weave unit. So we're going to go back through our beads, coming out our silver bead, and we are going to add 1, 2, and 3 more silver beads, and then go back through that silver. When we're back through that silver then, we're going to continue on down through those 2 11O seed beads that are after the original silver, back down through the crystal 11 crystal, out through the pearl, Go back up through. Create that little picot trim of that right angle weave. 3 beads go on, back through the silver, back through the design, and down to the next one. Going through the pearl, going through the 11, going through the bicone, and taking it the whole way down, creating all of those little, almost like little flower petals. What this will do then is connect and force the other seed beads to go towards that outer edge. Going down here again, go all the way through the pearl, come out the pearl, push your seed beads towards that middle, go up into the silver, add your 1 unit of right angle weave, and continue down the whole entire project. So after you get your right angle weave in there, doing that second pass, we're coming out near the stop bead and we're gonna make a loop basically that goes over to start the second side of our project. So here along the end, what I want you to do is pick up your purple color, and you're gonna pick up a total here of 7 beads. Once you have those 7 beads on, you can see those are gonna kind of loop from one side to the other. We're going to get ready to attach the secondary side to the primary side that we've created. The secondary side is going to be the exact same as our first run through. We're going to add a pearl, and then we're going to decorate the inside of our pearl with our 2 blues. This time we do not need to add a silver in the middle because our silver is already there. So we're going to sew back towards the start of the silver that's at the top of that right angle weave. Add 2 more of our blue beads, and then down through the pearl and out. Give a nice tight pull. Make sure you don't get any extra seed beads connected to there as you're starting it. And you're gonna see that nice V pattern in the middle there with that nice X. From here, add your seed bead, then your crystal. 1, oops, wrong color. 1, 2, 3, and 4 of your purple 11-O's, back through that bicone and out, making sure to push it up next to your piece, another purple bead, and another pearl. Again with the pearl, when you're connecting that one, you're going to add your 2 blue beads, go down to your next section where you have that right angle weave, sew through the bead that sits across from that original point on the outside of the pearl. So the one right there, you're sewing toward the start of the bracelet or what you've already completed, circling it around. Add 2 more of your blue beads, and then come down through your pearl. So it's the exact same process as the start of that first side, but instead of adding a silver bead, all you're doing is connecting to the silver that's already there. We're going to continue going in and adding, creating the second side here, attaching to the first, and then our last pass will go in and we'll add to the middle and attach our clasps as well. So if you're using about 4 to 5 feet at a time, which is what I would recommend so you don't get a lot of twists and turns, and the more thread you're using at a time, that is more beads and more wear and tear that's going through the thread as you're constantly pulling it through. So usually 4 or 5 feet is my suggested. I usually do a wingspan, which is about 5 feet. When I'm recording, a little bit less, so I have less to pull through to show you guys. But you're going to very likely need to add thread if you're starting out with that amount. I'm adding my thread right next to a silver bead, and I have another thread already ready to go with a needle on it, and I have the thread end here. I'm going to take my new piece of thread, holding the old piece. You can see I've done this a couple times so I know how to hold it, but I'm holding the old piece with my hand there, and I'm tying the new piece around the older piece of thread. So I'm not tying it to it yet. You can see it just runs up and down that thread there. Right there, I'm tying that new piece. So when you tie the new thread on, I leave a little bit of a tail, tie it nice and tight, pull it nice and firm, and then push it down as close as you can next to the bead that's already there. If you know you have to pass back through that bead, just be cautious about where you're going to put it through, because sometimes it can get hard because we want our knots to kind of hide in the beads or be right next to it to get your needle through. Once it's down nice and tight there, you're going to take those 2 thread ends and tie them together. Right over left, and then left over right. I now have my new needle ready to go. If you have a needle on the older piece, you can weave it back into the project. And then after my project is totally completed, I'll go in and I'll burn down the thread edge right there. Some people will like to glue, totally do that if you would like to. I use a thread burner, burn it down, and then continue on. So you can see we're just going to continue on adding our second row here of our side. Once you finish going through and attaching the other side here, you're going to get ready to put on your clasp. To put on your clasp, we're going to use an additional 7 seed beads linking one side to the other, like we did on that starter side there. And then we're going to come back and attach the clasp to it. And I'm using a pretty hex cut clasp, guardian clasp for that. Coming in here then, I'm through the pearl, and we want to get back into the design. So I'm going to go back up through those 2 seed beads that sit after the pearl. And once you're through there, you're going to go through the silver bead that sits in the middle. We're going to go over in the right angle weave through the silver bead that sits closest to the end, through the silver bead, and down through the side of that right angle unit, up through the pearl, and then remember we did 7 seed beads on the exterior edge. So since we did 7 seed beads on the exterior edge, that's going to give us a chance to come out of bead number 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to add 1 more bead, go up through your clasp, back down through your bead, and then also back down through bead number 4. So your thread's coming out after bead number 4. You're going to go in before bead number 4, between 3 and 4, and out. Going to reinforce this again, going up through that extra bead that you added, up through the clasp, etc. And then we're going to get ready to add our bead in the middle. There is a huge variety of beads that you can add to the middle of the design. We actually played around here on Twitch, which I'm recording live doing, and we played around with 2mm bicones in a variation of colors, 6mm bicones, and decided to go with a Potomac exclusive that's just going to break up that crystal look a little bit. So we are going with some DiscDuo beads that are going to run down the center of the design. We need to get to the center of the design, so come down through that pearl bead once again. Down the side here. Oh, sorry, first through the seed beads, then through the pearl. Put that out there. And then we're going to go into the design here and go into our seed beads, in towards that interior. And I want your thread and needle to come out through what is that bottom bead of this silver right angle weave itself here. You're going to go through those beads there. It's always nice when you do both at the same time so you're not separating them. Going through here. Usually when you have a tight space, what you want to do is you want to go in like this. You're going to bend your project just ever so slightly. When you bend the project, it usually will open up just enough little space that you can get your needle in there. Come through that right angle weave, all the way down so your thread is exiting through that middle interior bead. Once you're exiting that middle interior bead, we'll get ready to sew in our disc duos. So I've gone ahead and put in 4 of those disc duos so you can see them laying along the project here and what it looks like to give those options of what bead you're going to put in the middle. It's very simple to use a 2-hole bead or even a 1-hole bead, basically circling around and continuing on to connect to what is actually a right angle weave. With a 2-hole bead, you're just going to pick up by the first hole, coming out that last or that rightmost bead. Put on your DiscDuo, the same side. So I'm coming in the top here. Coming out the top, I'm going into the top of that same 11-0 seed bead that lays lateral on the opposite side. Going into the second hole of the DiscDuo, very simple again. Going back into that 11-0 seed bead to the opposite side. So you're just circling around, going through hole number 2. You could stack up 3 super duos. You can use 4 little 2mm crystals. You can use a 6mm bead, which is what I have here. And then you're just sewing through that right angle weave, down the bead on the bottom, up the bead on the top, and repeating. So I'm just going to keep going in and adding in my DiscDuo beads along the center of the design. Once you're done adding in your center row, you can see that I've gone in and put my tongue for my clasp on the opposite side here, and my thread and needle are back through right to where that stop bead is. So just like we did on adding thread, to end the thread we're going to tie right over left, left over right, and end that. And I can't wait to see everybody's different things that they add in the middle. Contemplated going in and doing another set of right angle weave with 2mm beads, having fun with all different ones. And then I'm actually going to separate out my beads a little bit. So I'm going to take my thread and needle and go through my pearl bead here and wiggle through there. And then what that does is pull that knot actually almost into the middle of the bead. And when I burn the thread edges off, burn them down on opposite sides of thread. That way I don't have a big knot or a big ball right next to one another. Burn down the thread edge on this side. Burn down the thread edge on the other side here. Nice and close to the project so you don't see any extra thread showing. And that finishes up your Victorian Pathway bracelet. So many different modifications, like I said, that can be done. It also would look great as an actual choker if you wanted to put that on a choker, and changing up different sizes and different beads down the middle, like faceted and round trios, super duos, even some just plain rounds without the multiple holes. As always, thank you so much for joining me in creating this Victorian Pathway bracelet. I can't wait to see all of your different versions in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Remember, if you haven't yet, hit that little button in the corner so you can subscribe to us so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for joining, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.